Good afternoon and welcome to the Pastor K Show. Today is a very special day in our nation and globally. We are celebrating World Social Work Day. So I want to take this time to extend a happy social work day to all of my fellow social workers, those here in Guyana and those around the world. Happy Social Work Day to you. And of course, as we celebrate today, Social Work Day, Pastor K Show thought it best to have two sets of interview. We had one this earlier up in the day at 2 o'clock with Miss Alicia from the Twin Island of Trinidad and Tobago, and we heard Alicia shared her experiences as it relates to the profession of social work, what she did, how she's involved, what she's studying now, and what they're doing in Trinidad and Tobago too, in observance of World Social Work Day. And today I am excited and I am happy to have a very distinguished guest with us who will be talking and sharing and bringing awareness as to the magnitude of work being done here in Guyana by our social workers. Like we shared early in the program today, this is one of the professions that is definitely does not go noticed. It is oftentimes gone unnoticed, and I'm so happy that we have this day set aside so that we can really recognize and honor our social workers. And I have a very distinguished guest with me on the program, but I would love for you to go right ahead and share this program. Invite someone to join us. If you know a social worker, tag them. If you know somebody who does social work, tag them and let them be a part of the discussion today. It's going to be very informative, and of course it's going to impact your life in some way or the other. So I am happy, more than happy, to have with me virtually, none other than this honorable woman of God. And she is a woman of God, and she's also a professional social worker, Ms. Dion Frank. Ms. Dion Frank is a lecturer at the University of Guyana. She is also a mother. She is a wife, and she is currently contending for her doctorate in social policy. Ms. Frank has been in the profession for over 20 years, and I am extremely happy to have Ms. Frank with us on the Pastor K Show to talk about social work. Ms. Frank, happy Social Work Day to you.
Oh, thank you, Carleen, and good afternoon. Good afternoon to the listening public as well. And I must extend the same returns to you, yourself being a social worker, a trained social worker, and one who I see recently has been doing a lot of religious social work. And I think
yes, Ms. Frank, thank you very much.
I must also commend you for that. It really makes me excited. I see that great things in the
Thank you very much, Ms. Frank. You know, it has been really an honor to pass through your hands as a lecturer. I mean, at the time when I was doing social work, I really did not, you know the weight you carry until after I finished the entire program. Then I really got to know who Miss Frank was. But it was really an honor to pass through your hands, and Miss Barbara and so many others. Of course, Miss Debbie Joseph and so many others. You are doing a tremendous work in the area of social work. Miss Frank, can you tell us, today we're celebrating International Day of Social Workers, and for this year is I am because we are strengthening social solidarity and global connectedness. Can you help us to understand the significance of celebrating such a day, a social work day?
Oh, sure, Carlene, I will. But before going into that, me, that it's the first time I'm appearing on your show, in as much as for more than a year you have been reaching out to me, inviting me to come on, and in some cases I've been sending representatives. Nonetheless, it's good to be with you this afternoon. All right, so
It's a pleasure.
World Social Work Day, generally celebrated on the third Tuesday in the month of March. It's a global commemoration of the day itself. And so for this year, as you rightly said, and the theme is Ubuntu being an African concept and philosophy as well. I am because we are. And what the message, and it's one that was particularly derived from the experiences over the past 5 years. And the theme also is the first theme of the global agenda for social work and social development, the agenda being for a decade 2020 to 2030. And so that's what we're celebrating. But what the profession of social work is trying to do is to reinforce the notion that regardless of status, socioeconomic status, class, whatever characteristics, social stratification characteristic you would want to use or classify yourself as being into any particular group, is that because of humanity, we are all connected in some way. And social work is pushing the notion that social development in itself cannot take place without the involvement of people at the grassroots level. So it's an attempt to promote the active participation of people from diverse backgrounds. Nation building is not only something that is for policymakers, for those in parliament who represent us in parliament, but each and every one of us has a role to play. And more importantly, it's trying to promote inclusion of people, particularly those who are marginalized and generally excluded from some settings. So that's the whole theme about World Social Work this year.
Awesome. So I know that maybe the Department of Social Work at the University of Guyana might have had some program in recognition of this day. Would you like to share some of the things that was done in observance of World Social Work Day?
Okay. Well, actually, at the in the social worker unit, we have not had any specific program to commemorate the day, and there are several reasons for that. As you would notice, we are in graduation season, one that is protracted because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But my colleagues and I, we have been trying through different media, at least to be able to bring the message across that social work is relevant now more than ever to national development. It is here to stay. It has a prominent role to play. But the other reason too why we have not necessarily focused on a very big, loud commemoration. This year also marks 50 years of social work education in Guyana. So the University of Guyana is of social work education in 1971. And so we are going to be recognizing that, and we'll take the opportunity to have a series of activities mark that. That is going to be exciting for us. The social work program in Guyana is the second oldest in the Anglophone Caribbean, the first being at Mona Campus, UWI Mona Campus, Jamaica, which started approximately 10 years before us.
That is awesome. Let me take this time to congratulate you and your fellow colleagues in the social work department and celebrating 50 years, you said, this year.
Yes, 50 years of social work education in Guyana.
Well, that is a tremendous thing to celebrate, and I really want to congratulate all the lecturers at the University of Guyana who are specifically in the Department of Social Work. Miss Frank, I noticed also that there was an article in today's Stabroek, is it Stabroek or Chronicles? Chronicles rather, and you state that social work plays a very pivotal role in the development of a nation. Can you share some more light in that regard? How important is social work to the development of a nation, of a community, of any society, and globally, because that's where we're looking ultimately?
All right. What many people do not know about social work is that social work is not just only about providing psychosocial support and making therapeutic interventions. They are social functions, economic functions, political functions for social work. And what that means is that they are different strata of intervention. So yes, there is a micro level where we work with individual and families. We also work in the middle where we work with groups, small groups, social groups, etc. And there's also the work we do at the macro level. And so it's not unusual that you're going to find social workers who are working as policy analysts, who are working as social planners. Those are strategic position, planning programs, conceptualizing different projects to meet the needs of people, the needs of community, and also aim directly at attaining national goals. Over social work and development, the whole notion behind social work and development is not something that is new. We are now hearing a lot more about social work and development because more scholars are writing about it. But since the United Nations emerged in the 1940s and with the introduction of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, social work has sought to reposition itself in such a way that its developmental function is one that is seen and recognized for its value, the role it can play. So it's not just about just working with an individual. Of course, that is important. That's where we started in the late 19th century when the profession was birthed. But there is so much more. And I'll tell you this, let me give you this example of how important social work is and the critical role it plays. I don't know how many people know this, but when Nelson Mandela became president of South Africa, one of the things that Nelson Mandela sought to do was to reposition the social welfare sector. And Nelson Mandela pulled together the scholars from the university into social protection to conceptualize its social welfare programs. And so they took the developmental approach to social work in formulating policies, conceptualizing programs, and implementing programs. And after spending a period of time, and the programs were in such a, and also relevant training was done, those people like Lila Patel and Antoinette Lombard, they returned to work in the universities. And that's how important social work is to national development. And I'll forever be grateful that Nelson Mandela, one of the leading statesmen of this world, recognized that and give the attention that it needed.
Indeed, that is a tremendous key role that the late Nelson Mandela took in terms of social development. Miss Frank, you know, this particular topic about social worker and social services, many times, you know, it is felt by many social workers that this particular profession does not receive the necessary honor or the necessary recognition that it should, because of the lives that are being changed by social workers, and the necessary changes that social workers actually implement in communities, in nations. And you talk so very much about policies and things like that. Why is it that social workers, or the work of social workers, is not magnified as like a doctor or a lawyer, or, you know, the teachers and so forth? Why is that?
There are a number of, many of which are not unique to Guyana. As a matter of fact, let me share with you this story. When social work was finding its feet, so to speak, in colloquial terms, in the early 1900s, so there was this conference, National Charity Workers, where somebody that was considered to be well respected, Abram Flexner, was invited to give a speech at the conference. And the first question that he threw out to the participants was, is social work a profession? And from that period, the debate around social work as a profession has been robustly contested. So we can say from inception that social work has always had to contend with questions surrounding its professional identity. I think at that time when Flexner asked that question, he was concerned with the fact that we use borrowed theories. You would have done the theoretical course in the program. You were exposed to the human development theories, then there's social learning, all the different theories that the sociological theories as well that we rely on to inform our work. So that is what Flexner was concerned about. But many scholars have responded to that, to demonstrate that we are not just saying that we are an exclusive profession. We are a profession with unique techniques and methods. So, and we do work with interdisciplinary professionals. But more than that, understanding human behavior is something that the psychologists have been researching and have been practicing. And so rather than reinvent the wheel, we create that nexus and utilize the appropriate theories. You know, in the Caribbean region and Guyana per se, the old discourse about social work is one that is sporadic. When there is a conference, and for example, today, if you were to look on social media, you would have seen many of your friends, fellow cohorts from your batch. They have been circulating messages about Happy Social Work Day, etc., other things that they have been seeing. But if you were to ask them how often that they involve in doing something like that, it's a different story. But also in the Caribbean region and Guyana, particularly the Anglophone Caribbean, social work is not a legislated profession, and there is no regulatory framework. So the absence of a regulatory framework in itself is one factor that, you know, many other people like the man in the street and other skeptics, you would say, would use to question, you know, whether we are a profession. But we are in a profession. That is not, we are a professional body. That is not what makes us a profession. It adds to our legitimacy, and it gives us the kind of visibility and the kind of impetus to be able to stand on our own legs and to negotiate and to mobilize and for advocate. Yes, but social work has value, lots of value, and it needs to be recognized.
Right, so much so it does need to be recognized a bit more, especially given the amount of work that social workers usually do, not only here in Guyana, but around the world. Today I had an interview just like this with a fellow social worker from Trinidad and Tobago, and she shared quite a bit in terms of the work that herself and colleagues would usually do from time to time, even in a COVID environment. Let's touch a little on that. We know COVID came, social worker. Uh, this is one of the things we were talking about. If you know, social worker can be considered as a frontline worker as well during the COVID pandemic. Ms. Frank, how necessary is it to have social workers be involved in every stage of rebuilding, of helping to cushion individual society, of cushioning even the like you spoke about in terms of health forming policies and things like that? How important is the social worker in times like these?
All right, I want to start my response by addressing the first point you brought up, whether social workers should be considered essential workers. I would say yes and no. The fact it all depends on your area of work or your field of work, your level of practices. Because, like, for example, we do know that there is a medical social work unit at the Georgetown Hospital, and I believe those who are assigned to that unit, they should be considered essential workers, not just because they're attached to the Georgetown Public Hospital, but because of the need to have them readily available to be brokers for clients, for patients, for family members. We know how the operational protocols surrounding COVID-19, and so generally when you're hospitalized, you're isolated, you are in that unit by there's limited contact with your family member, and that makes you more vulnerable. So there is need for social workers to be on call and to be in that setting, and also they need to be able to be providing the necessary support needed by families, and that support may be psychosocial. They may also need to make referrals for families because of the nature of the illness that the family member is experiencing, and then the likely the possibility of loss, and then maybe there's a family financial need to assist burial and all of that. So the social workers should be able to be, actively engaged in making referrals, trying to direct them to the necessary services, etc. But beyond that, I think one of the underestimated, one factor that is underestimated during this pandemic, it's the impact on mental health. Lots of people are not accustomed to be in a place where they're told that you should not be socializing, you have to restrict your movement, etc. And we see in Guyana, our fellow country people have been responding to that. Many have not been paying keen attention to that. And so for some person who have dared, they've stayed inside. Some may be already mentally ill, and some of them may be experiencing some signs of mental illnesses that they have not had before. And they all impact on their mental health. You know, you're thinking about the loss of employment, don't know where your next paycheck is coming from. You know, that is going to affect the family. And then in some cases, you find intergenerational conflicts because, like, for example, you know, the extended family is quite prevalent in Guyana. And so granny is accustomed to grandson being at school during the day, but now grandson is at home doing homeschooling over the internet, and granny cannot understand why the child is on, you know, the computer all the time. And then the child may not just be doing schoolwork on the computer, doing other things, and then also the child is there for you to see everything he or she does wrong. And so there is a constant, you know, in colloquial term, we would say picking. And so you find intergenerational conflict around parenting, disciplining, also trying to get them on a structure. And if we were also to look at this whole issue of one of the biggest challenges right now for us as a country is adherence to the protocols, social distancing. We're seeing reported in the newspaper the fact that business owners have been arrested because they're violating, you know, the protocols, etc. But what also is needed is behavior modification, and that one area which I think social work can play an important role, because there has to be a change in behavior. You've got to come to the point of accept this is the new norm, or this is the norm for a protracted period of time. So you've got to do things you know, part, all of that. The message needs to get over as to the importance of why. And many people look at television, don't necessarily hear what is on the television to them. And again, we as social workers doing community activities, you know, disseminating information, small groups talking to people, the importance. Some may get a message even better. And then there's a larger picture in terms of the economic impact. You know, government alone cannot do this. Government needs the support. There is the need for alternative livelihoods and all of that. And you know, social work has an educational role. It has a role in terms you know, directing people to start their own livelihoods. You would have had, I don't know if you recall Ms. Barbara course, where Ms. Barbara's, where they are at least 2 assessments where you're required to learn 2 new skills and teach somebody a skill, and the skill must be one that they can use to generate income. So you see the connection why we do that, because lots of people, women are severely affected by this pandemic. Many of them are leading households, and they're the only breadwinner. So some of them will need to learn new skills. So should we have our training has made provision for social workers to do such activities with clients.
Definitely. So one of the reasons why I really, really love the profession, you know, the training and the skills that you acquire, I really, truly believe that it sets you on a path to succeed. It does not matter what comes your way. The social worker is able to tap in to that, I would say, resource that is within the individual and make something out of nothing. That is one of the reasons why I really, really love the profession, because, you're able to keep the wheel turning, even though there might be a shift, as we see in COVID. There is a shift in the way we do things. And so the wheel must keep turning even as we continue to live and continue to be. Ms. Frank, I want to turn your attention to social welfare. I know this is a particular area that you did your research or is doing your research as you contend for your doctorate. Let me congratulate you in advance.
Oh, thank
I want to
you.
turn our attention to social. Yes, you're most welcome to social welfare and social work in Guyana. Can you share with us concerning your research, what it entails, and some of the findings, and how we can really implement some of your findings here in Guyana's context?
Okay. What I need to say from the inception is that my work is still in the process. Of course, I would have completed a number of studies, and I'm on my final one. I'm anticipating when this final one is done. But my focus is on social welfare and social work in Guyana. I am specifically looking at their roles and functions in development. One of the things that I'm seeking to do is to be able to not just to understand a lot more about these two topics, social welfare and social work, but I want to be able to bring the experience, and that's the part where I am right now. Well, I'm going to tell you where I've come from in my work so far. After I finish with this, I want to be able to examine the experiences of people who practice social work and social welfare agencies to be able to get their understanding, their positionality as to how they see themselves in this whole, as social workers, in this whole concept or notion of development. So do the tasks they do, that they perform, do they see a connection to the national development goals? Do they see the connection to this sustainable development goals? One of the things is that social work as a profession has grown to the point where we are embracing these global compacts, the SDG being one, then the predecessor was the Millennium Development Goal, and then they are the convention, the UN convention, and all of that. And we do work where we're expected to perform tasks to achieve the indicators, so that when Guyana reports to the relevant UN committee, we're able to say, well, we have made this step in terms of achieving this indicator, whether it's SDG 1. Well, SDG 1 is, to me, is the most important SDG, ending poverty. And if we're saying no one left behind, that is the one that we really need to ensure that we make some work. But our social workers are doing this work. Do they identify their task, their role in the context of this global agenda, of the national agenda? So that's the point where I am. But before getting to this point, I've had to go down the old, go back to the old era of slavery, trying to understand what forms of non-professional social work were, what forms of non-professional social work were evident during that time, how it is, how they manifested, examining the old colonial policy, trying to understand, the different worldview and why we went down that road. Then I've also had to be able to get to the point where I was able to craft exactly what social workers do when they do social work. And there has been no similar study across the Caribbean region in that area. So I had nothing to go on. And so we can't just say, oh, we know they do this, we know they do that, and all of that, but needed the empirical evidence. So I needed to go and generate this, to create this knowledge and to generate this evidence to say, yes, okay, now I know this is exactly what they do according to the research. And to be able to build on that, and then also to be able to understand what exactly social work, people who employ social workers, if they know what they're looking for when they're employing social work. And I'm ashamed to say, I don't know, but from the findings so far, I could say to you is that many employers, including the government agencies, they do not know what are the competencies they should be looking for when they're seeking to employ somebody to perform a social work function. And there is this one disparity that reflected in the findings. Like, for example, you find that there are positions, managerial positions, being advertised for in vacancy announcement. And you're asking, the requirement for the position is a degree in social work. And the task, when you identify the task, it includes policy formulation, conceptualization of programs, etc., and all of that. Obviously, a person at a degree level is not able to do some of that which you're asking to do. Then I've also seen cases in my content analysis where you've had a specific government agency asking for the supervisor to have a diploma in social work, and for the frontline worker, the person below the supervisor, to have a degree in social work. So here it is, the social worker, the supervisor, is going to be the holder of a diploma because that is all that is required. And the person he or she is supervising is the holder of a degree. Now, I don't know what kind of social administrator that makes that person. But you and I know, Carleen, that the 2-year diploma program is just introductory. It's just introducing you to the concepts, the theoretical framework, and one of the things, the reason what that speaks to is the fact that it is necessary at the governmental level for there to be a change in the policy, because it is acceptable that you're recognized as a professional social worker with a diploma in social work. But when that policy was formulated, it was relevant to that time, which was the early 1970s when the program was introduced. And at that point in time, the people who were doing social work, who were coming to be enrolled as social work students, were people who already had 10, 15 years practicing in the industry. They were serving as probation officers, social welfare officers, school welfare officers. So they already had the experiences. They were now coming to the university for the certification. And so that was deemed relevant at that time and adequate. But we have gone past that so far. And then with the advent of peer counseling, HIV counseling, and all of that, and now we're seeing younger people are coming to do social work. It means that one, they do not have the level of emotional maturity. Two, they do not have the level of lived experiences. So they may come from school, straight from secondary school at 18 to do social work. And imagine you're advertising for a supervisor with a diploma in social work. And so they come into the program at 17, they graduate at 19 with a diploma in social work, and we're employing them. And that's just an example to supervise a person who spent 4 years in a training program. So that kind of disparity I've been discovering, and they need to be addressed. If we are taking social work seriously, we need to address. And at an appropriate point, I am going to be sharing more of my findings. I am just focusing on completing this last part of my journey.
Yes, I think this is a very interesting research, and I was about to ask if you were going to make your findings public, if you're going to share your research with the necessary players and relevant authorities and of course social workers to bring awareness and to help inform and change the way things are done so that it can be in a better way. If you will use this research, since you are paving the way very nicely, if you will use this research to really help to make better and informed decisions in our nation.
I like how you put it, that I am paving the way very nicely. I thank you for that commendation. Yes, what use would it be then if I'm to just do it and keep it on a shelf? And one of the things in choosing to do a doctoral program, one of the things that I was very careful of, well, there are three reasons specifically why I decided to do a doctoral program. In the first place, being a member of the academy, it was necessary to have a terminal degree, to have that additional exposure to the kind of knowledge and to be able to create the knowledge. Then I want to be able to, for my teaching to be at another level per se, and then also to have the kind of impact where your work, where you're creating the kind of information and knowledge that you can use, to influence policy at different level. And yes, as a matter of fact, I've been able to so far get publications coming out of this work, and there are some additional ones that are more significant, that are going to be coming out. So apart from those, are going to be widely circulated. At the end of all of this, I'll be sharing my work to see how best it can be used. And of course, returning into the classroom, my students are in a better position to get more out of me.
Very much so, and I know you are truly a tremendous lecturer, and I'm sure the work that you are doing definitely will not only better yourself, but will help your students, will definitely help this nation as a whole. And one of the things that I really even as you're talking and all of that about the research and so on, I really do believe that you have a very pivotal role to play in this nation as it relates to social work and social policies and things like that. So I'll be looking out to hearing Miss Frank in the news and reading about her and so on, because of her work and where she is going in the very near future.
I take it that that's a prophetic word you're bringing over. I claim it in the name of Jesus.
Oh, Miss Frank, I know we are running out of time. It is so good to talk with you. I've been wanting to have a conversation with you for ever long, and I'm happy when you called me. I could not turn down this particular opportunity. I really see it as a pleasure and an honor to be having this interview with you. But just before we go, I know Guyana, we are now oil-rich nation. Oil and gas is the talk of the day. Oil and gas is the focus of the day. Everybody is talking about Guyana is no longer the land of many waters, but now it's the land of oil, flowing oil. So, can you tell us about the importance now as it relates to oil and gas? How social workers fit in that particular bracket, oil and gas and social workers. I mean, immediately looking at it, thinking at it, it seems as though that social workers really, does not have much to do with oil and gas. Can you help us to understand the importance and the role that social
Sure.
workers can play in the oil and gas sector?
I'm sure. I'm very excited to do that. But I just wanted to respond to you. Said, I've had different requests to talk about different things today. And to be quite honest, I felt very guilty. Given the number of requests that I've had from you, and I've turned them all down, or I've sent a mentee to talk with you, and then now I'm appearing on Facebook Live or and giving interviews there. So I said, oh, I needed to do this to Carlene. I owe her that. She has been behind me for a very long time to get me to come and talk. All right. So as it relates to oil and gas, there's one thing that I've been saying is that there is need for a social work response to this new dispensation that we are in. The thing about it, there is there is a perception that because we are now an oil producing economy, in the next 12 months or thereabout, all of us are going to be very rich Guyanese. But that's not a reality. We have examples all across the world. Look, for example, Venezuela is right next door. Forget the political issues that they are confronting right now. We know that they had gotten to a point where they were not necessarily getting the proceeds from oil, and more importantly, that it was not necessarily meeting the people. But beyond that, I think one of the things that we are not quite adequately prepared for is that the economy in taking off and expanding, what we are going to see is an influx of different groups of people. And this is just putting aside refugees that are coming over the border currently now. But you are going to see people who are economic migrants who are going to be coming to Guyana to take advantage of the opportunities that are available in Guyana. We as Guyanese, we've had the experience. Many of I would say, it's only those who really, really love Guyana stayed and endure, the challenges that we've had. But many of us opted to be economic migrants, and we went, whether it's in the Caribbean or North America or Europe, to make use of opportunities there. So we're likely to get the same thing. And there are also a number of new social problems that we are going to be experiencing.
I really love how you put it, Miss Frank, in terms of the influx that will be happening, well, has already started, but of course it will increase in the near future. And so the need for the social worker is very, very much important in this time more than ever before. Do you think that we are ready as a nation as it relates to social work, being equipped enough? Well, should I say equipped, or being ready to deal with what is upon us in terms of
Um,
all that you would have just mentioned?
well, quite
Or
frankly,
maybe is
I'll
the
say
right systems? Do we have the right systems in place? If not, like,
no.
what can be done?
Look, quite frankly, I'll say no. And now, one of the things that we need to understand that the different areas of social work, the different elements of social work need to come on board. And I must take this position. We in the social work unit, we are aware that we have got to do restructuring to our social work curricula, both at the undergraduate and graduate level, and we are going to be evaluating our programs, and where necessary doing the restructuring. As a matter of fact, the last time we restructure our programs, it was 2015. In 2015, so we are now at that stage where it is necessary for us to do, and so we'll be doing our part definitely. Um, the current government is quite young per se, and it is not a year old. But I am certain, I'm thinking that by now there should be awareness of the need for policy changes, and more importantly, it's the revision of the old social welfare regime that is necessary. What we are using now is the residual approach to social welfare, which is what we inherited from the colonial system. That is what Britain would have implemented um, on the poor law relief, and it's the same kinds of programs were transported by the virtue of what you call indisputable validity, thinking that because they were working with Britain, they would work in the Caribbean, notwithstanding that the challenges that we faced were different, and the factors contributing to the problems that we were having were also different. So there is need for that, and I trust that in time to come, we'll get to a place where we see stakeholders are consulting on that. Our programs, are we going to move to conditional cash transfer programs that are more of a social protection nature, rather than the residual approach where, like, for example, we just have persons on the public assistance and they just get the public assistance, and sometimes we throw them off. Sometimes they don't need to be there anymore, but they still continue to be on the register. And there are lots of different things in terms of the social welfare industry. Lots of things that need to be done, policy changes, and there is the need for training and all of that. I don't know the extent to which continuing education training is a part of the ministry's program. I don't know, I can't say what its orientation looks like in terms of orienting new social workers coming into the sector to be able to adequately perform to attain the goals, etc. So there is that. And then also, there's a role for the professional association, the social work association. Once upon a time, social work association was considered a strategic stakeholder where it had a place on boards, national boards, commission. For example, they were called upon for advisory positions, in terms, when I say advisory position, as to give a position on a particular matter, to promote what would be a necessary or an applicable social work response. And I trust that we get to the place where we're able to mobilize the more than the almost 2,000 social work. Well, I shouldn't say the University of Guyana program has graduated about an estimated 1,900 graduates so far from the three programs across the 10 campus and the Turkine campus. But when most of them would have migrated, because we're not only exporting nurses, we are exporting social workers as well too. And that's not unique to Guyana. It's something that is happening in the Caribbean as well. But I am trusting that if it is that we have maybe, say, 700 trained social workers still in Guyana, that if we get, say, at least 1/3 of that population actively involved in the social work association, we can move mountains.
Role they love to advocate, and of course to you know, to be on the front line dealing with issues like these. Miss Frank, do you see yourself as playing such a pivotal role as you know, advocating and being the forerunner as it relates to social work, the work of a social worker, and the role that you, like you rightly talked about, being on these various boards and the association, playing being more involved in decision making in our society and things like that. Do you see yourself as one, you know, who is a forerunner? I mean, I can answer for you, but you can go ahead.
You can answer for me. This is what I see. I see myself working with different groups um, to contribute to the social and economic development of Guyana. Wherever the need is, I am there to make my contribution. I have a strong sense of what it means to be a civil-minded Guyanese and to be a patriot. And so I am prepared to contribute wherever necessary, wherever my skills are needed. I'm prepared to do that. And I know my colleagues in the social work unit, they are also prepared to do. And we have been doing it. I mean, we cannot do it all. One of the things that I'm very proud about is that social work education has been the one element of social work that has not had a period of dormancy or so. So you can say that social work education has been the pillar that has been really holding up their profession over these years since its introduction to Guyana.
Definitely. For those of you who are now joining us, we are talking with Ms. Dion Frank, who's a lecturer at the University of Guyana, and she's also contending for her doctorate in social policy. And today is World Day, and of course, the Pastor K Show is celebrating all social workers here in Guyana and around the world. Miss Frank also, I consider her a pioneer based on her work that she is doing, and of course, you know, creating new inroads in terms of the social work profession. I see one of my lecturers also is on this live, Miss Barbara Holder. Happy Social Work Day to you, Miss Barbara. And I know you also have been doing a tremendous work as a social worker, advocating, serving on several boards and things like that. So salute to all of you social workers, the work that you've been doing. You know, we usually say this is a profession that is usually, you know, placed on the back burner of many countries. And so I think even as we're celebrating here, because even as we're celebrating World Social Work Day, I really feel as this is the birthing of something new, bringing awareness as to the importance, how important it is for social workers to be involved in every sector of society, in every organization, and of course, like Ms. Frank was alluded to earlier, in on various boards, because there is the need for that holistic development in our society. And the social workers, we are so skilled and trained that we bring that extra eye that, other that will most times go unnoticed from others. And so, like our theme for today, it is I am because we are. And definitely I truly believe that we need each other in all the days of our lives. No man is an island, and that's why the social workers are there to help you realize that you can make it, and there is something inside of you, and help us in general to stand on our own and press past the pressures of life. Miss Frank, do you want to give any closing remarks? I'm so happy, I cannot stop saying it, to have you on this program. Do you want to give any final closing remarks, any wish maybe your fellow workers, colleagues, associates, social workers, students, happy social work day? And what encouragement would you leave for the social workers, even as we're celebrating, winding down our celebrations today?
Okay. Well, I think I want to acknowledge, you brought up the fact that Mrs. Barbara Thomas Older is on the live. Um, Mrs. Barbara Thomas Older, at one time, my colleagues and I, we generally laugh because I'm not sure if you are aware that Miss Barbara Thomas Older was every other social work educator in the social work unit, whether it is at Tain campus or at the Turkine campus. Ms. Barbara Thomas Older has been our lecturer. She taught every one of us. So she of herself, we should say, what is that? The pillar, the pillar in the unit, in the social work unit per se. But I also, want at this point in time to acknowledge my other colleagues in the social work unit. I'm not sure that people generally appreciate what we deal with when we deliver social work education. I'll tell you this, our social work cohorts at the University of Guyana are some of the largest, not only in the Caribbean region, but globally, because generally many schools of social work tend to keep their cohorts very small. Undergraduate, 30, at the master's level, 12. But because of Guyana's need, we have not really capped our program that low. And so that in itself, puts a strain on us. But it speaks to the commitment of the social work educators in the unit to carry those large cohorts and, to bring them through the program. And so I would really want to commend them and also, shout them out, Miss Barbara, Mrs. Hopkinson, Debbie Hopkinson, Mrs. Chanel Smith Eno, Miss Audrey Ben, there is Miss Paulette Henry, Dr. Paulette Henry now, who is based on the Tain campus. Then there's Miss Koya Ali, who is the newest addition, just trained in the UK, and I'm so happy that she is a registered social worker with social work in England. And then there's Miss Chelsea Ali Crawford. There are also others that assist us as part-time lecturers from time to time, other people, and they are also important to what we do. And in Guyanese parlance, I would say big up to them. But if I am to leave a message, it's a call to action. Social workers themselves. Social work is a profession that requires a lot from you, as well as gives a lot to you. I know the conditions under which some of you work are not ideal, but I know you have the training. And so, what I want to do is to encourage our professional social workers to live up to the values and the principles of the profession. In whatever you do, it should be a people-centered approach that you're taking. It's more about us than the individual. It's meeting people where they are, and it's finding ways in which you can make a meaningful contribution to the social and economic development of Guyana. Guyana needs all of us. And let us rise to the occasion and do our best.
Well said, Miss Frank, and that's why I so love the theme I am, because we are. And I think I really hear you when you shout out the lecturers and you spoke about, the work you as social lecturers do. Really, really, I salute all of you in the social work department. Miss Holder, such a lovely woman. Miss Frank, Miss Frank, Miss Frank, I am so happy again. I cannot stop saying that. I'm so happy to have you on the program. I count it as a privilege and a joy for you to be sharing such, nuggets with us as social worker. And I'm truly delighted. I know that we are looking to people like you and Miss Holder and Miss Debbie, and of course Miss Ben and the others. I heard you mention Miss Koya. Do I have the name correct?
Yes, Koya is
Who
now
has just joined the teaching profession. Yes, congratulations to you, and I wish you all the best.
well, actually, Karen, if I may interrupt,
Congratulations, Koya, and a registered social worker.
If I may,
Yes.
may interrupt, Koya has always been in the teaching profession. She has just transitioned from teach to social work education per se. And I think that when I called out my colleagues earlier, I miss Monica Miller. But Miss Monica Miller is also a part of our theme. Yes. And well, we're in the Department of Sociology. Yes, we are the trained social workers, but of course, we have the other sociology members of faculty, Ferrix and others there who are with us in this journey.
Yes. So congratulations, and I extend a happy Social Work Day to you all. And we really want to recognize and salute the work that you do, and that you have done and that you're still doing. I know the sacrifices are great, but you are making positive impacts in the lives of men and women. I know, I think women are outnumbering the men as it relates to being a social worker, but I know they have a few men who love the profession as well. So I salute you for the work that you're doing, and to really encourage you to continue that awesome work that you're doing. And to all the social workers around the world and here in Guyana, happy International Social Work Day to all of you. Miss Frank, it has been a pleasure. You brought so much enlightenment as it relates to the social worker and the work that is needed in terms of policies and the different areas that a social worker may feel a particular burden towards, and how we can make positive impacts in our society wherever we go. And more than anything else, how the social worker can really help families and individuals and communities and policymakers and so forth to really help to make to consider the individuals at the various level, whether micro, macro, and to make that positive impact in the lives of individuals. You brought so many perspective. It's like a tinkling something coming up again. But hey, I really want to congratulate you and wish you all the best in your studies as you wrapping up your paperwork or on your doctorate. So I wish you all the best and thank you very much for joining the discussion this evening.
Okay, thank you, Carleen. It was a pleasure sharing with you this evening. And I'll say a blessed evening to all your viewers, listeners.
Thank you and do have a blessed rest of the night. Can I call you doctor?
No, you
Dr.
can't.
Frank in waiting.
I'll tell you when. I'll tell you when you can.
Okay. Thank you very much. All the best to you, Miss Frank.
Thank you.
And so to all the social workers, I wish you all the best. I wish you all the best. We were talking with Miss Frank. Miss Frank is studying, contending for her doctorate in social policy. She is a lecturer at the University of Guyana. She has been in the profession for over 20 years. Yes, and she really, really shared some important information with us as social workers, how we can continue to make positive impacts in the lives of men and women, and of course our nation. Miss Koyo, congratulations to you and happy International Social Work Day. I already greeted Miss Barbara, of course, Miss Miller, and Miss Hopkinson. Happy Social Work Day to you. Miss Audrey Ben, happy Social Work Day to you. I also have very Simone Colley, happy Social Work Day to you. Miss Asana, am I calling you Simone Asano Robertson? Happy Social Work Day to you, Shalom Parlet, and so many of you. Happy Social Work Day. And I really want to recognize and congratulate you for the hard work that you usually do. And I know that you are making positive change in the lives of individuals and you're making positive change to your community and society, nation as a whole. So I salute you today and I encourage you to continue doing the great work that you are doing and know that you are, once you love what you do, then definitely you are making impacts in the lives of individuals. I love you here at the Pastor K Show, and we say hats off to all you social workers. I can't emphasize this enough. I can't overemphasize this enough. I think you're really doing a tremendous job. Just keep on doing what you're doing, and yeah, see lives change, nation change, policies change. Wherever you have that burden, continue to do what you do. So this is where we say goodbye for now and thank you for tuning in at the Pastor K Show. Until another program, have a blessed rest of the evening.